Hvala i vama što ste ovde ceo dan. Ja sam isto dobar deo programa pratila. Dobro. Trudit ćemo se da se zapravo ne ponavljamo i da probamo da zapravo razgovaramo o nekim temama koje smo već čuli, ali isto tako da ne pričamo na iste teme iako je sve nešto što povezuje fintech, često zaletimo svi u istom smeru. Pre nego što, u stvari naravno, za sam početak bih pozvala svoje paneliste. Imamo dva bankara, Zoran Petrović i Slavko Carić, Zoran direktor Raiffeisen banke, Slavko Erste banke. Zatim imamo dva, možemo reći, finteka, Michael Pinkus iz Bitbonda, je li nam tu? I Miroslav Minović koji nam dolazi iz Blinkinga. I na kraju imamo Dušicu koja nam negde predstavlja neki međusegment finteka, startupa, institucije i dolazi nam iz DL Capitala, jer imamo stolice za sve, imamo, i Amar iz EBRD-a. Thank you, Amar. So what we've decided also, samo evo i ovde da kažem, preći ćemo na engleski jezik zbog prevoda, prosto da nam svima bude lakše i da probamo da držimo ovu diskusiju što dinamičnijom. Thank you all of you. Zoran, can we maybe switch places so I can look at you? Sorry, I didn't notice the last chair, but I think it's okay. Thank you. Okay, as we said, the topic is change, which is not something very unusual when we talk about digital transformation, especially in the fintechs. But here at this panel, we will focus mostly on fintech as a huge opportunity for SMEs and SME financing. So we will talk about that segment a bit more. And also we'll address fintech not only as startups who do fintech, but what fintech usually is, finance plus technology, so any kind of technology which improves financial opportunities. And in that segment, I would start with the bankers first. I would like both of you, you can decide which one first, but to tell me so far, when we talk about Erste Bank or Raiffeisen Bank in Serbia, how has technology improved what you are offering to SMEs? And what is these new services that you have for this segment or that you plan to have?
Thank you. Well, not much. That would be one. In one sentence, the answer to your question. There is evolution ongoing in terms of banking's proposition to corporates, to SMEs in particular. Our clients are moving more and more towards e-banking and m-banking as opposed to maybe 5 years ago. But I would say that this trend, overall trend, when we talk about average SME in Serbia, is still far behind what we have as best practice globally or even average in CEE region. So we are still lagging behind, but as far as banks are concerned, I would say that there is more than a critical mass of probably 10 to 15 banks that have more than a decent offer of electronic channels being through PCs or mobile devices for SMEs both ways.
But on the other hand, just to add on to that, you have something which is quite unusual for SMEs, which is not fintech, but this whole mentoring segment and special support system.
We in Erste Bank, and I wouldn't say this is for SMEs, this is basically for startups. We have a special program which is called in Serbian Korak po Korak, or step by step, which is meant to actually help startups start their business through a loan facility, which is, I think, the only available startup loan facility in Serbia. And I would call it a 360 line in a way that we not only offer loan to SMEs, but we also offer mentoring and education to everyone who wants to start business. I would need to emphasize that this facility is not available only for tech startups. This is basically for anyone from barber and flower
Newly
shop
founded
to a tech company. So and that goes basically below central bank's requirement for minimal standard criteria for granting loans, which requires at least 1 year of full balance sheet. As I said, we have available mentoring and financial education package, which is both available online and offline. So we have courses which are given by our friends and partners and our employees, as well as dedicated web-based platform where you can actually participate at these seminars. And so far we have 8,000 participants on our online platform, which I think shows us that there is a very, very high demand given the number of startups in Serbia. So we are very happy. So far so good. More than 1 million euros disbursed. We are talking about average ticket size, we call it ticket, every loan size of 25,000 euros, which is not great, but for these people that's huge help, so that they can rely on banks as well as their own friends, family, godfathers, neighbors, and VCs for those who are more sophisticated.
Okay, thank you. Zoran, financing banks and technology for SMEs, how is it not much in Raiffeisen, or is there more to say?
It's when it comes to the SME financing. First of all, the first product that most of the banks are having, but some of these products are best in class, some not. But we would say we have one of the best in class when it comes to the payment solution on the through the mobile app. We do also, which is the project that was run together with the National Bank of Serbia and most of the banks, the instant payment system, which is quite advanced thing even for the Europe, where you can use 724-hour system, and to pay your bills, services, or wherever, up to the certain limit of 300,000 dinars, so which is a really good thing, The next thing, which is in line, we are pilot for the group for the SME digital. I cannot tell you right now all the things that we are working on, but just to mention that we're going to do for this, where the ownership structure is the simple one, we would be able to do quite soon ID&V, video identification for the account opening, so you will not be forced to come into the branch and sign the papers and deal with a lot of papers, etc., etc.
Perfect.
That would be a huge improvement. The solution is already in place, and it's going to be launched very soon for the private individuals.
Okay.
And of course, what is the aim? The long-term aim is to catch up with the best in class. The best-in-class banks are now offering special platforms, but for this kind of thing, we need partners. We are quite open to work with the partners. We would like basically to offer the full range of services that are not just the traditional financial services, but for these kind of things, we need the partners. So that the SME will go digital through the Raiffeisen and then have the solution for the finance management, accounting, marketing, HR things, a lot of things which will consume a lot of capital and a lot of bureaucracy within the company, which we would like to take out from the. So this is part basically of the digital SME, but once again, we would need to have a lot of partners, and we'll screen the market here to figure out with whom we can work. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Michael, I would like to switch the discussion towards you. Slavko already mentioned that SMEs have this financing problem all over the world. Serbia is not different. And where does BitBond fit that scenario, and what is actually the problem that you are solving as a big fintech now?
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm pleasantly surprised that the banking in Serbia can do 20 to 25,000 euro loans. Surely in countries that we deal with, primarily in Western Europe, as soon as the banks open the application, they've already lost money on a loan that size. So I think it's great. Obviously, you have a very efficient system already. For us, we don't see ourselves as replacing banks. Very often we're working together with banks. In fact, we have banks that are institutional investors that are investing in the loans that would be too expensive for them to originate themselves. And that's just one of the many ways that we cooperate with banks. Another way is when we collect our data to do our credit modeling, we access information that through a series of APIs that we're collecting data directly from bank accounts of potential borrowers.
Just for the audience, so some of them haven't heard of Bitbond. So in one sentence, what do you do?
Oh, no one saw my pitch to this? Okay. Yeah, we're a global SME loan origination platform. And we link borrowers and lenders from different countries, as opposed to a conventional marketplace lending platform where very often they're active just in one jurisdiction. We use a unique setup combining regulation and blockchain to allow us to do lending globally.
Globally with Serbia or no?
We would love to be here. We would love to be here. We've early on, before we had our BaFin licensing, we were in the proof of concept stage, and we did do a couple of Serbian loans to see how it would work. But it's not a business that we have the green light on, obviously, because of the many regulatory factors that have been discussed. It's a market we would love to break into. As I said during my pitch, we had the opportunity to meet with an e-commerce platform in another developing or opening market in Kenya in sub-Saharan Africa, obviously a completely different region. And through that conversation, we were able to open up the opportunity to lend to small businesses there. And I think that's another unique way we're cooperating with partners in jurisdictions on the origination side as well as on the funding side.
Thank you. We'll also touch the base on this regulation
my problem.
afterwards.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
We'll
Okay,
have,
all right.
We'll have time for that, I promise.
Okay, good.
So Miroslave, can you also, so Blinking is a domestic Serbian startup. So what is it that you do? You haven't pitched today, right?
Yes, that's true. Actually, Blinking is a digital identity platform and is often classified as a fintech startup, emerged here in Belgrade in cooperation between some academic people and, of course, with people from different companies. And basically, the reason why we are usually mentioned as a fintech, even if we are not dealing directly with financial transactions, is basically because digital identity is actually essential prerequisite for any kind of digital transformation. So our vision for financial markets is basically to provide such kind of identity for the end user, which will allow them to move freely between different providers of different kind of services in fully digital manner.
So for example, sorry for interruption, but Zoran mentioned that they want to make us not go to the bank and wait in the rows in order to be both identified and signed. So in ideal scenario, Blinking can help with that, right?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
and essentially that's it, because we are still mostly providing relations one customer with one service provider, and in the future we are more eager to develop some kind of ecosystem where actual user will have a freedom to take different kind of services from different providers, but to do that much more easily, and that's also a special problem for cross-border movement, and it's something also stated as a problem in Europe. When you go to another country, you have to establish your relations with different institutions almost from the beginning, so that's basically our
Okay.
target.
We'll talk more about it. Thank you. Amar, you are coming from EBRD and are in a way looking at this fintech and access to finance globally. And if you can maybe give us your overview of when we talk about the SME sector especially, and even the emerging and newly formed businesses, how is the technology changing the opportunities for SMEs, and what is the way we will move forward tech trends in fintech in this segment?
I think one very important thing that I'm seeing myself, and I believe that's why we had speakers like Angela to discuss the customer experience. And basically fintech is leading to a customer-centric product and direction. So from what we see, fintech is allowing more affordable products. They're more directed towards niche markets that have not been penetrated previously. And that's very important in my work in terms of access to finance. For instance, women-led SMEs. There was a recent report by the World Bank and the SME Forum, which I believe stated that women-led SMEs form 1.5 trillion US dollars. And this is a segment that has not been reached previously. And now fintech allows and not been reached previously by financial institutions, but fintechs are being able to reach those segments. So in a nutshell, those are the two most important areas that I see being developed. In terms of products that we see being developed, crowdfunding is something that I'm very busy on. When we say access to finance, traditionally I used to work on secure transactions and factoring and leasing, but now we're seeing more fintech products on the forefront. Crowdfunding is one area where we're quite heavily involved. We have projects in some of our countries of operations, including Armenia, Egypt, and Turkey.
In terms of helping those countries develop more crowdfunding solutions for SMEs, okay?
Developing more crowdfunding solutions and looking at their legal framework. I particularly work in the legal team, looking after access to finance legal reform. So whether there's regulation or not, but generally exploring what is hindering, for instance, crowdfunding developing.
Thank you. Dušica, you come from a mixed background, so you have like financial institutions background, and then now you're working quite heavily with startups. So how do you see both like we see here startups which are collaborating a lot with financial institutions and different institutions, but how do you see the future of this development, and what's the next big thing that we should look for?
Thank you, Zoya. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I just wanted to say that there's someone who is in between, and I'm constantly going from one to another side. I've seen a lot of cooperation, not only competition, because we have different types of fintechs. We have to understand that there are fintechs that are enabling banks and helping banks actually perform better. And this is, for example, without the Stripe technology, we wouldn't have Amazon today. We wouldn't have lots of really good works on the card sector. So I would say definitely that it's important to understand that lots of startups are developing technologies that are supporting the growth of the banks in the right direction, which is customer-centric. And that's absolutely reducing the cost, cutting intermediaries. I mean, there's just so much good work there. There are certain startups that are fighting for the piece of the market that banks are having, that's for sure. We've seen also a lot of challenger banks which are going towards the current accounts and payments. That is happening as well. But I would say that what excites me most and why I have decided, to go to the other side, to the darker side, it's actually financial innovation which is coming directly from a fintech sector. There is a lot of super smart people, and I have to cheer Michael's Bitbond here because I'm a big supporter of a security token. With another startup, I'm a co-founder of Security Token Network. We are really shaping up the ecosystem, working a lot with regulators, and I think that it is really exciting to see so many new things coming. And I would say that apart from those fintechs that are supporting with technology, every player in the financial system, we have also those competing against the banks, but we have those that are bringing new things on board. For example, Grab from Malaysia, Goyak from Indonesia. It really doesn't matter when the good idea is coming, where it is coming from. I have to mention my favorite Stripe, which they had, one founder had 16,
Yeah.
one 17 years when they came up with the novelty idea. So can you imagine how many no's they got? But they managed, and now we have it, and we all benefit out of it. So I would say there are like more levels of cooperation between the institutional and the newcomers than we can see just on the surface.
Yeah, it's many layers and many different players, but
Absolutely,
when
lots
you
of good things.
Yeah, when you already mentioned security tokens, I have to, it's a good cue for Michael. So Bitbond is now launched the first German security token offering. Why is that the next step for you? And tell us a bit more about it.
Yeah, sure. So it's, just to be clear, there's obviously different types of financial instruments. In this case, it's a security. It's a debt security with a prospectus that's been reviewed and approved by the German regulator. So that's really nothing new. That we've been seeing for 150 years probably, something in that form. I think the unique aspect is the fact that you're removing, as many people have spoken about today, you're removing all the middlemen, all the parties in between, where your custodians, your underwriters, your payment agents, the list goes on. Plus, paying for all their lawyers before you're even ready to issue one bond. You've paid $2 to $5 million of out-of-pocket expenses, and that's totally not unheard of. So, if you're a small business wanting to access the capital markets, it's a very innovative way to do that. And we've actually had much larger companies come to us in the meantime and say, listen, we have assets, we have debt-based products like real estate or other types of loans or renewable energy. And we would also like to issue this type of digital bond. And it's a natural thing for smaller, medium-sized companies to do. So we're very excited that we've kind of helped open the German market. I think we're the 5th or 6th issuer in Europe generally. Yeah, we worked hard with the regulator to get them comfortable with the idea of including blockchain. We run our STO on the Stellar blockchain. I mean, it's a question of choice. We use Stellar in our daily lending business. The initial loan and all the interest and amortization payments run via Stellar. So we're comfortable with that. We're used to it. So that's why we chose that. But you know, an STO could be on any type of blockchain. And why another reason why we chose to do that is to diversify our funding. You know, marketplace lending, if you look at the general history, it started out essentially like peer-to-peer lending. Then you started bringing in more and more institutional investors, banks, insurance companies, pension funds. And now a third option is going to the capital markets, and particularly going to the capital markets to allow retail investors to once again access this asset class.
And just one more info. You said among 5 in Europe. Do you know which other countries in Europe have something like that?
The ones I'm aware of, definitely the UK.
I guess,
Yeah. Switzerland. I believe Liechtenstein, Austria.
Yeah.
I said UK. That's for Luxembourg.
Yeah, and Germany.
And Germany, yes, that's it.
Okay.
We're number 5, that's right.
And do you think that countries, Dušica, maybe you can add on this as well, but or any of you, as a matter of fact, is that an opportunity for Serbia that should look into, or you think it's too early?
Well, I think it makes a lot of sense for smaller, medium-sized businesses that want to access the capital markets because there's a huge barrier to entry there. I think the general question is, at least as I understand the regulatory environment here, is will the regulator take the approach that allows for a certain level of crypto or blockchain-based
Should they?
activities to take place? Yeah.
Okay.
You think about the state bonds, because I just wanted to mention the World Bank enabled 100 million issuance of bonds on the blockchain, Australia domiciled. So these things are happening. I can confirm that in UK, Novara did cryptocurrency denominated bonds. So there is a lots of things happening in the sector that is not seen on the top. So yes, for sure, there is opportunity for many. We also heard about preparation for certain forms of digital currencies. So there is a lots of movement in the space.
But what I hear is mostly quite well developed and financially advanced countries which have financially advanced institutions. So the question, do you think it's the fact that we are just not advanced enough, or it's just that for us and countries similar to us, it's just not the right time to do something like that?
I honestly I would like to be in position to say that Serbia is ready to go yesterday, but I think that these kind of movements have to be carefully considered, well structured and developed. Even some countries like Germany had to issue certain new legislative frameworks. We know, for example, Switzerland as well. So that is happening as we speak, and I'm convinced also that Serbian government and Serbian National Bank are working on enabling a new regulatory framework that would support that as well. Maybe not how to say
Slavko,
yesterday,
I see you
but it's
nodding,
coming.
and neighing, so...
We are at the stage of buying gold today, so I'm thinking that we are quite far away from actually going crypto from where we are. And just to answer your question, whether we would be able, or our SMEs would be able to benefit from a platform as just described, I think that regulatory today, very clear and short answer is no. There is no regulatory possibility for Serbian SMEs to actually benefit or actually draw funds from funding which comes from abroad for two main sets of legislation, one coming from the Securities and Exchange legislation, the second one coming from the foreign exchange legislation, one sitting with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the second one sitting with the central bank. So today, and we looked into it, it's impossible. I would say that optimistically we would need at least 12 to 24 months to actually start, if there is political willingness to start changing sets of regulation in order for Serbian SMEs to be able to benefit from that market trend.
Let me try one experiment with you, completely unannounced, but if I were to ask all of you yes or no, not in like whether we should explore that option and possibly go forward, of course, having in mind that it all should be very well considered as any smart regulation. So in terms of like just yes or no, I would like to hear, Slavko, yes or no? For the security token offering or that kind of legislation to start?
Absolutely. And there we
yes.
But can I expand just one sentence? There has been a set of investors coming to Belgrade Stock Exchange offering for Belgrade to be hub for token exchange, and unfortunately Belgrade Stock Exchange had to say no because the legislation was lacking.
Of course.
But what I would want to or love to see that, yes, hell yes.
Yes. Dušica, yes, no?
Absolutely, yes.
Amar?
Also yes.
I guess.
Definitely yes, but I think, there was a sixth country I forgot to mention. It was France, and SocGen, everyone knows SocGen, issued a 100 million covered bond STO. So I think in order maybe to get people comfortable quicker in this country, I would like to see the banks actually lead the way.
Miroslav, banks should lead that?
Yes, definitely yes, for a new way to raise funds, of course.
Zorane, you are neighing?
No.
Okay, why?
No, because we want to jump from what we would say from opanci to shoes, just like that. Maybe we can, but I doubt. First of all, the level of the transparency. What will happen tomorrow? Someone will need to invest, Someone will need to foot the bill, Someone will need to take out the money from the pocket and buy these bonds? What is the level of the transparency of the in the financial reports of the domestic companies? What is the level of the regulation? What is the level of the knowledge we have within our regulator who is in charge to regulate the capital market? I tell you, I mean, if we would say tomorrow, even if we would bring all the laws in place, the risk of people losing money would be huge. So I would say no. I think, for this kind of thing, you need to have a bit more a track record as a capital markets. What I hear here is like we are talking about the countries which are quite advanced when it comes to the capital markets development, And again, I don't think we should jump first from opposite to shoes. I think there has to be like, okay, time frame and everything. I mean, a legal frame, okay, the transparency in the financial reporting, etc., etc. But the problem, often I hear there is a problem in the access of the finance, and I know that is coming, in different opinions. The question is, and Slavko and me can confirm here, we would love to lend. That's our business. We are in a pure, commercial banking business, bread and butter business. A simple one. If you are a credit-worthy customer, you have a minimum 2-year track record, you can apply, If you have a decent finances, you can get even the pre-approved loans, Pre-approved loan, we are taking, we are buying all these reports from the credit bureau, APER, etc. We can send the offers even, and that's what the banks are doing today, sending the offers even that you did not ask. For the loan, for the small tickets, etc. The problem is, here, how to finance the ones who are just having the ideas, who are not having the track record in the financial track record, etc. These are different things. This is not our field, basically.
If I just may add, because everything what Zoran said is absolutely correct. We have to be cautious. We have to. That's the work of the people in the financial sector. But I just wanted to mention that sometimes the banks step in to bridge the legacy systems and upcoming systems. For example, BTG Pactual, one of the biggest Latin American investment banks, I work with them. They have in February tokenized the underlying assets from their NPL portfolio, which successfully reached the cap. So these things are happening. And the point is, of course, we can take very cautious steps, and we should, from the legacy systems to the new systems, but we also have to be aware of what's coming globally. And that is also the work for the regulators in Serbia, as well as in any other countries, to coordinate and fit in the upcoming global system.
I agree. My question wasn't a bit fair because I didn't let you elaborate. But on one sense, this is the constant question. In some areas, we need to leapfrog, so skip several steps. And on the other, we need to be more careful. So that I was just wondering, what does your gut, that's what I wanted to know, like more say in terms of this segment. But I don't want this to be only about regulation. So I'll try and go back to this again, startups and innovation and banks. And I would also then like Zoran and Slavko to go over their examples, what their banks in Serbia are doing to look for like more innovative projects. So Zoran, we heard for those of you who were present, there was this Elevator Lab presentation. It's happening for the second time in Belgrade. Now it's the regional, basically your Belgrade team is covering the whole Bosnia and Croatia and even some other regions where Raiffeisen Bank is not operating. So what are you looking for in terms of Elevator Lab, and why is your team that much engaged in looking what's happening with fintech startups in this region?
Look, we are legacy companies, okay? And we want to change, and we realize that unless we are ready to change, then people will go over us. So, and you have to cooperate, and you have to find people with whom you can cooperate. And I think, the cooperation, I mean, so far we had, last year we had our Elevator Lab in Serbia. To be honest, I was not so pleased. We had like eight companies, 8 small fintechs pitching. You know, I expected more. We can send the winner to Vienna on the regional competition. The good thing was like they went into the finals, so quite successful story. But you know, when it comes to the numbers, you know, when I saw numbers that are coming from the other countries, even from the region, I would say Serbia was not so well placed. Although we invested in marketing and you know all what is necessary, you know. But now we have a very good experience. We are pilot for the group for one project, which is basically encompassing 2 things. The first is the video identification, and the other thing is the big data analytics, which will help us to create loans based on the quite short procedure through our mobile app. That is going to be a major innovation. So account opening plus the
So you are open and
scoring,
sorry.
credit scoring, where we're going to use also the big data analytics. But we cooperate there with the 2 fintechs which are outside from Serbia, unfortunately. But as I said, very successfully, and the project is going to be alive in next 2 to 3 months max.
But as I understood, so you're looking for ideas to come from
Yeah.
outside, but you're also working on your own,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
turns out so far it goes better when you do it inside.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean, you know, we would not try to do in Serbia.
Of
As I
course.
said, like we're gonna be like we're gonna launch the new elevator lab in June. So this is kind of a regional initiative encompassing the Serbia, Bosnia, and Croatia. We are really looking forward to get more fintechs than the year before.
Well, judging for the interest in this event, as I heard, it was really huge. They even had to close the application, so let's hope that there are even more startups now. Slavko, when we talk about Erste Bank, you are also doing quite a lot internal innovation. You even have your own startup or a fintech. So can you tell us more?
Well, around 5 years ago, we started with our innovation lab, which was incepted in Erste Group in Vienna. And they have come up with one product, which is called George. George is basically now the most modern mobile banking application. I would call it actually personal financial assistant, which is able to function in the banks in Central and Eastern Europe. Very, very big success story. 4.7 million clients in the past 3 years since implementation, which started in Austria, and then rollouts were continued to Slovakia, Czech Republic, Romania, and Croatia and Hungary being deployed basically these days. So out of that, we had hundreds of novelty ideas, a few fintechs which started from the employees who were working there, and I can say that it's actually one very, very big success story. As far as Serbia is concerned, we have started working with fintechs in 2012, 2013, let me say in the early days. I think that in 2013 we got the Innovation Award from one of the associations in Serbia covering banking sector for an application which was called PhotoPay, which we attached to our mobile banking application, which allowed our clients and still do to actually take a photo of their bills and to extract by OCR all the information into the application. So it was then seamless in terms of filling in and making the payment. Today, where we are in the middle of the change of our new core bank system plus all the satellite apps. We are 1 year into the project. We need at least another year to finish that. A year and a couple of months. Once we finish that, hopefully we would probably be sitting on the most modern IT platform in Serbia, allowing us through all the API layers to be actually a potential playground for cooperation with all the fintechs that would approach us. And,
And what about George in Serbia?
George is obviously coming to Serbia once we do the foundation which we are laying right now. And talking about George, I don't know if there is a possibility of putting it up on the screen.
Can we put the URL, Slavko's URL on the screen?
Yeah, I'm inviting all the interested parties here in the audience. George is an open platform inviting everyone who wants to participate to go visit George online and to see under which conditions you are able to produce plugins. There are around 200,000 plugins already, so you can cooperate with us, you can earn money with us, and I'm inviting you to take a look at it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Zoran has something
Just
to add.
just want to mention Rea, I mean, which is the first chatbot that we launched in Serbia, the first that I know, basically, and the first one in the Raiffeisen Group. So far, very successful story, although the Rea is just giving the informations, but we had so far, we launched it close a year ago, 500,000 conversations, we have 1,500 customers already on Rea. And there is now the second phase, which is going to be alive very soon. It's going to be more sales-oriented. And the third phase is already in development. And they told me, like, you are not allowed to talk about what's going to be in the third phase. But Rea is alive, so please use it. Yeah.
But
Can I mention
from
Esther
Serbia,
from
right?
Esther? No.
Yeah, I think it's enough. So, Miroslav, how does this sound to you when you listen to bankers? So what, they are basically your clients. How can your solutions help them deliver even better products?
Yeah, basically, banks are aware of ongoing changes, and also banks in Serbia are working on improving their services and catching up with this trend of digitalization, and these are all good new services and offer new potential for actually new way and new possibilities for developing new services for a digital age. And of course, we need a time for users in order to recognize such services, to adopt them. So these things cannot happen over the night.
One question for you, which I think is quite relevant for this panel as well. So we've recently, there is this list of top 50 fintech companies in the world, and 5 of them are actually FIS, NCR, and some others are actually operating in Serbia. So we have a lot of Serbian developers working on developing fintech and globally relevant fintech solutions. Then we've heard that we don't have enough fintech startups as a market, not only you, but we hear it from different perspectives. And then on the panel that was before us, we've heard that even some startups, they start working with Serbian banks or with Serbian other institutions, and then they decide to go to other markets. So how is your stand? Do you think, I know that you are trying to find customers here and to develop your products from here, but what does your gut say? Are you going to go somewhere else soon?
Basically, I must admit that we already have a few offers to move abroad, but basically our strategic decision is to stay here and to try to improve this and also global markets from Belgrade. And that's true. There are some. It's not easy to move things here. We are maybe not a faster environment for innovation in the world, but on the other side, we know this local market very well, and we are trying to communicate with all
apart from
stakeholders.
banks, what sounds very logical is that one of your big clients could be the government, right? And different e-services that they are doing, and we hate waiting in lines, right?
Yes, that's true. And basically, even for the banking industry, basically banks are with us. But
Okay.
of course, we need to work with regulator, with other bodies involved in order to make things possible and to
Okay, regulation. That's always ends up on that. Amar, in terms of regulation, and if you look, as I said, this global perspective, so how bad is the situation here? And what do you have some advice for us on the approach? Because obviously all of us here and here want to improve it. So, and we've heard on the previous panel a lot of different regulations was mentioned, so I don't think we should go into details, but what is the good approach into improving the regulation for fintech?
I mean, bearing in mind that I work for EBRD and we cover quite a broad range of countries, including South East Asia, I think Serbia is definitely on the right track. We've heard today from various speakers, including the keynote speakers, that there is, I mean, having a prime minister actually open such an event, that's just in itself, from all my 7 years of doing this, it's very impressive. It just shows that there is a willingness and there is an appetite for change and reform. So this is very positive. Serbia has EU accession plans, so they are moving in that direction. It takes time. I think it's really important to remember that SMEs often lack the capacity to navigate through regulation, so this is never an easy area to regulate. As for fintech itself, the various products under fintech, the first question should always be, do we need to regulate? Whether because the activity itself is an unregulated activity and can remain so, or whether it is sufficiently regulated. But then you need to really strike the balance between regulation over regulation. That is always a problem, and also to ensure that if you do regulate, that it is enabling, and if you don't regulate, that it's also not a barrier to entry. Because lack of regulation could also mean that other companies or new companies do not want to enter the market because they're of uncertainty. As for globally, there's a lot going on. We've heard today that there are initiatives and thoughts around regulatory sandboxes. That's something that's very important. We, as EBRD, are working on a regulatory sandbox in Estonia. However, there is now the FCA's Global Innovative, I need to remember the name, I think I've written it down. The Global Financial Innovation Network. That's going to be an international sandbox that can have more than one member. There are currently from EBRD's countries of operation 3 members, Lithuania, Hungary, and Kazakhstan. And this could be an area, if a country does not have a regulatory sandbox, that could be something that companies within the particular country can look at.
On the previous panel, I suppose, I know you were listening as well, but there was one question, how can we make regulations so that we don't have to change them every 2 or 3 years because technology is developing real fast? And I know Zoran has went into that question several times. So regulatory sandboxes are one option, but do you have some other tips while making those kinds of...
Well, I think it's very difficult because technology is evolving, and what we know today we don't know later on, and it could mean that we need to revisit our existing legislation. But my advice would be not to draft laws, which are often hard to change. So do stick to regulations or directives or circulars. A lot of various institutions are coming up with best practices. At EBRD, again, we've developed a best practice on regulating crowdfunding, both lending and investment-based crowdfunding. This is available on our website. And that shows whether you need to regulate, over-regulate, self-regulate. Again, those are different areas. And when you work within a working group that involves lawyers, market players, regulators, you hopefully come up with the best solution.
Go ahead.
Just to give one credit to the Serbian regulators, which is not a common thing. They came up, National Bank of Serbia came up with a decision on the identification video identification, which will basically allow the banks to open the accounts and not force the customer to come into the branch. So everything you can do through the of course, that has to be done in the regulatory environment. There are certain prerequisites for that, but this is the huge step. I'll tell you, these days in the Europe, this is something that you cannot see all over. So this is really, really good thing. On the contrary to that, there is a lot of work that needs to be done related to the famous law on the FX. Then you probably spoke about the crowdfunding and the different means and ways how to get to the funds. There we would need probably to tackle, not to probably, but for sure to tackle the tax regime. You know, we have to give the incentives for the tomorrow for the investors who would like to take a look at it, these possibilities. So, I mean, and as you say, like, sometimes it's in our mindset what is not mentioned exactly in the law that is forbidden. So we need to change a bit that kind of mantra, you know, and be open up our basically eyes, you know, when we are you know, talking about the loans, the laws, the articles, how we are reading it, etc. So there has to be kind of a wider scope. And sometimes when you come on the court, you know, and then, you know, you are judged exactly, you know, and then the judge will tell you, you know, you didn't use the proper, you know, the article does not mean that, but it means something else, etc. So the culture we have here is a little bit difficult. We are more kind of a culture where people would say, like, we like to have everything regulated. And I think this is a kind of a bit of a burden basically for the innovation.
If it's not specifically approved, then we don't do it, okay? But that's a bigger issue. So Dušice, from your perspective, we heard Amar from the state and regulatory, but you are here at the conference. You are connected with the local, both finance institutions and the fintechs and startups, but are more involved and are actually working in a more developed markets. So how does this look from your perspective, and what we as a private sector, like not looking at the government, what can we do to improve this segment in Serbia?
Well, I would suggest the so-called UK model, because I think it worked.
What kind of a model?
UK model.
Okay, UK.
Because it worked really well. We know that London is a fintech capital at the moment, thanks to certain guarantee schemes. And I've heard today with these tax guarantee schemes, and I've heard today that Serbia is on the right way. It actually boosted considerably the fintech sector in the UK. It's called EIS and SEIS schemes. Also, it was very closely cooperated with FCA and the Sandbox, because somehow the whole system got around. I have to say that institutional players extremely positively reacted to these schemes, because the coverage is even up to 60%, which you can basically get back through the tax benefits. So I would definitely say that support on a government level is always good for a quick boost of certain segment. And as I've heard today at the beginning from the Prime Minister, it seems that Serbia is on a good way. So I think we should just continue that direction.
Michael, do you have something to add, because you are also like looking at the global market? So what is your impression, and what again, as private sector, what can we do, like the people here and here?
Yeah, I think we shouldn't, in English slang we would say it's a cop-out. You blame everything on the regulator and you end up doing nothing. So I think you have to focus on what is available to be done. You have to pursue the fintech opportunities that are currently allowed you. And that could be, for example, we outsource our parts of our compliance. For example, the anti-money laundering, to ensure that you're dealing with the individual you think you're dealing with. There's excellent platforms that do that. There shouldn't be anything that's keeping that from happening in this country. We outsource to a certain extent our payments aspects of our business. Just to name a couple things, all the sanctions lists that are being checked every time we enter into a loan, that's all outsourced. So these are fintechs. It's not just about lending or just about payments. There's a lot of other opportunities, a lot of other businesses that can be grown and supported that aren't going to fall foul of any current regulation. I think the other aspect I would say is, being an ex-banker, I know how painful it can be to develop an IT project in-house. So pick your projects carefully, and what you don't do, outsource it to growing and innovative fintechs that are available, because it allows you to save a massive amount of time and a massive amount of cost. For example, just one quick story. We recently had a due diligence from a major European bank, and the board members sat down and listened to us. And one of them said, I can't believe how efficient your compliance is. We have 200 people in our back office doing our compliance. It costs us thousands and thousands, and it costs us less than 10 euros to do a compliance, actually 5 euros to do a compliance check on a potential borrower. So just another story. I know it's easy to point the finger and say you can do things better, but I think also we can't blame everything on the regulator, because
Exactly.
you have to play the hand you're dealt.
And some things it's better to worry about the things we can control, and the regulator is definitely not one of them. Zoran, you are giving me signals. You're
Just
too
the
near.
two things on this one. I'll tell you one thing. The best digital bank in the world, which was the legacy bank like we are, and we want to try change ourselves. We are on the path of changing the way we do the business. But the last 2 years, the best digital bank in the world is the DBS, the Singapore bank, which was the classical bank like we are. And you know what what I learned there? I was there for a 2 days visit. I learned one thing. I mean, among many things, but the one thing was extremely interesting, you know. They said, if you want to be successful, you need to own the technology. And you have to insource your development. 85% of the development they insource versus 85% outsourced just a couple of years ago. This is on the one hand side. On the other hand side, you need to open yourselves to the third parties, to partnership with them, to keep the customers 24 hours around you, and to offer huge layer of services which are not just the financial services, but the other things. So there are two things, you know. The one thing is the internal development, I mean in-house development, the ownership of technology, and this is what they make them successful. And the second thing is to be open towards the external community, fintechs, etc., and to offer in the partnership to offer the services to the customers.
So
these are the best bank in class.
Is Raiffeisen Bank in Belgrade going to become a software company?
That's a very good question. Another thing is, like, if you look at this, I mean, you mentioned the challenger banks. I mean, I had an opportunity to talk to the CEO of the Tinkoff Bank, which is one of the one of the best digital bank. I think for me, maybe the best. Why? Because unlike some banks in the UK, which are very good, particularly they are very good in attracting the funds. But when I saw their returns, they are poor. What does it mean? People are betting, you know, that they're going to be successful one day, they're going to make money right now. And then that's why they are investing. This is how I see it. If you look at the Tinkoff, they are already making money. The huge issue basically for the digital banks is how to monetize, how to scale, you know, how to make money, you know. And these Russian guys, they prove that they can do it. And what I learned there, out of 3,000 something people that are working in the bank, 2,000 something are basically coming from the IT. So basically, even the DBS, if you go on the net and find the interview of the CEO, he said when he became the CEO, he said, like, I need to figure out what the Tencent is doing, what the Alibaba is doing. I've sent my guy, my CIO in the Facebook, etc., because I have to figure out and learn what these guys are doing, how they are making, you know, their business, and how they are making money. It's not that we are now competing only with the banks. We are competing right now with a lot of companies which are providing different kind of services, which are not just the financial services. But at the same time, we have to be open, and I think, you know, the PSD is also, I'm looking at that as an opportunity to cooperate, basically, to open ourselves, because in my view, in the partnership, basically, you can keep your customer, you can grow your customer base. That's the future.
Miroslave, listening to a banker saying this as from the perspective of a software company, do you agree or not?
I'm not sure that I want to
You can
discuss about
elaborate
that, but,
more. It's not a yes or no question.
Actually, fintech emerged as a term showing us that it's becoming more interdisciplinary field. So we probably need experts from the both fields in order to be successful. And I must admit that I also share this vision. So in future, we will probably have more like kind of ecosystems in different industries and also in financial industry. And basically, there is a space for all of the existing players and probably for the new ones, because that should open our market and actually bring benefits to all of us, also for legacy banks, and of course we have to adopt, and also for new providers of different kind of services. Just one comment regarding regulations. Maybe when we are doing regulations, they are needed, of course, but we should avoid the trap to regulate the technology. So we already did that once with in the space of digital identity with PKI, which was the best technology, best secure technology for verifying someone's identity, and we made all the regulations around the world tied to that technology. And now when technology moved forward, we are kind of stuck with regulations, and we are trying to find some other ways how to overcome that problem. So that would be my comment also.
That's
for the
a good
blockchain. We shouldn't regulate technology, but try to regulate industries and define rules for everyone.
Just one more sentence. I think we need each other, I mean, the fintechs and the banks. Why? Because we banks, we know how to monetize, we know how to scale. We are less flexible. This is a minus. Fintechs, they are much more flexible than us. They have know-how as well. So I think it's an ideal combination. That's why I don't see the competition there.
Okay.
I see a lot of room basically for cooperation.
Yeah, I think that's
Yes,
an
please.
excellent segue into what I wanted to say is, I think you can make a choice as a large institution to build it or buy it. And that is, it's a question of what's best for you. But I think you're absolutely right. I think there is so much room for partnerships. And just to take one example from the UK, if you look at a bank like Barclays, and they, sorry? Well, they partnered with Market Invoice. And it's Market Invoice, for you guys that don't know, is a factoring platform. And Barclays was very honest. They said, we have the ability to go out to our clientele and offer this product, but if we were going to build that in-house and try to do that in-house, we would lose so many efficiencies that are in the current platform. And I think that's a perfect situation where you have a truly symbiotic relationship between fintechs and banks.
Our time is up, and I think it was a very good conclusion, but I will allow all of you, if you have just one sentence to add on what we were saying, but I think this cooperation between fintechs and banks is crucial. Slavko?
Again, I'm inviting all of you guys who are interested to visit George. We are already putting our money where our mouth is. We want to cooperate more with fintechs, not only compete. And next year, Erste Bank Serbia will be in position to invite all the fintechs who are willing and able to collaborate with us to join our forces. So we're thinking that way, we're doing it that way, and you're invited to participate.
Thank you.
I would just say it's not only that the banks and fintechs will be cooperating. We will be seeing more innovative business models. Definitely places like Amazon coming up with their payments systems, etc. So this is, we will be seeing a lots of cooperation. And I think there is a room for growth. And particularly, as Michael said, lots of banks are already using fintechs and their technological advancement in order to enhance their business models, reduce the costs, improve the margins. So it is already happening.
And one thing that we forgot to mention, but that's also what you are doing in a way, trying to help startups and financial institutions and fintechs become what they are. So if there are still fintechs and startups around, I suggest they might grab you and ask for some advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Amar?
Just simply to echo what everyone said, I mean, the collaborations are very important. Fintechs bring in innovation, bring in the customer-centric experience and the penetrating the niche market. So those are things that big financial institutions will benefit from. I personally think we will see whether this collaboration is, in the long term, something that big financial institutions might regret, but it'll be interesting to see. But I think at the present, in the short to medium term, definitely not.
For the three of you, I give you 15 seconds because I'm kidding. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm American, but I've been living in Germany for 20 years, and Germans have in the past had this mentality, was ist nicht erlaubt, ist verboten. What's not allowed is forbidden. And it sounds very similar to what you were talking about. And now we've had the German regulator approve an STO. They're very open to blockchain. The government is very positive. The press is very positive. Sometimes it takes time to change a culture. But in the meantime, find businesses that you can grow.
Thank you.
Okay. I would say that since we are already living in a connected world, we should build ecosystems in the future. So
Great. That's why we are here.
yeah. Go ahead.
Zorane, I don't give you a last word. No.
I hope we'll be in the business of banking less and live more.
Thank you. At least that was short. I'm kidding. Thank you all very much.